This episode of Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source of games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source of Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with another episode of Playing on a Budget. This week we are going to try the Mono Blue Aggro list that has been going around MTGO every now and again. We've seen some of the pros like Sato actually post similar lists to this, so I thought I'd give this one a go because it is a budget list, and if you cut out the Mutavaults in this deck, it is basically all commons and uncommons. So let's just go down the prices here. We have Mutavaults. We're going to be running 4 of them at $18 a piece, so that is going to be, again, the bulk of our budget is going to go to the Mutavaults. Once again, let me just, for all the people that are new to this series, the Playing on a Budget is a $100 budget for a competitive standard deck. That's the goal. I'm sure you can actually make decks for a lot cheaper. Again, if you cut out the Mutavaults in this series, if you cut out a lot of the dual lands in the series past, you can make the decks for a lot cheaper. But the goal of this series is to build the most competitive deck with $100. And, well, you know, different options each week. I have to come up with different ideas each week. So it does get a little bit redundant with a lot of the aggro. It's going to be a lot of aggro archetypes because if you're going to go into more mid-range and control, it gets very expensive to build on in Paper Magic and Magic Online. To kind of have a fine-tuned deck for those. The thing with control and mid-range is you cannot stumble on your land base, and that means that you most likely will have to spend the cash on the shock lands and the fetch and the scry lands and the pain lands and such forth. As if you do stumble on your mana base, you will get run over by aggro. So a lot of my Playing on a Budget episodes will be aggro based, just because that's really mostly what you can do with a $100 budget is to go into more of the aggro. Anyway, so this one's gonna be mono blue aggro. Again, everything, this is rotation time, so we have, you know, cheaper cards. We have Tidebinder Mage at 75 cents a piece. Rapid Hybridization's at $1.75 a piece. And anyway, I didn't include all of them. I'm sure that the rest of the uncommons will equal less than $14. And the rare-wise, it's just Hall of Triumph, Tidebinder Mage, and Mutavault. There are no mythics in this. Again, there might be a few options that I'm overlooking. Blue does not have a good mythic creature that's aggressive. I don't think that Master of Waves quite works in this deck because our devotion is going to be pretty low, and we're going to try to be as aggressive as possible. This is kind of a tempo-based deck. The sideboard you can actually morph into more of a tempo list. So anyway, let's just go over the deck list here. So we have, as far as our 1-drops are very full, we have Cloudfin Raptors, we have Faerie Impostors, we have Hypnotic Sirens, and Judge's Familiars. I'm just going to move these Rapid Hybridizations over and Dispels over because these are kind of our control cards. We have a 0-drop here with Ornithopter. The reason why Ornithopter is used in this deck is a way to actually bounce with Faerie Impostor, the Illusory Angel, and the Quickling. So Quickling's a very good card in this deck because it's good against like Mono Black when they decide to Bile Blight something or Doomblade something. You can Quickling in response. So it protects your creatures and gives you a 2/2 flash flyer. Mutavault is probably, I need to put a 4th Mutavault in here. We're going to put the other. There we go. So there's 4 Mutavaults, and it's just going to be 20 lands, so you're going to be running 16 islands and 4 Mutavaults. You could go the Glade Rider Sliver, as it would give your Mutavault flying, but for budget reasons, I'm not including the Glade Rider Sliver in here. So the best 1-drops, I think, at least 1 flyers, are going to be the Cloudfin Raptor and Judge's Familiar and Hypnotic Siren. You're very, very, very rarely going to be able to bestow this. It's just a 1/1 flyer for 1. There's a few other options. You go a 1/1 unblockable. I think there's a Merfolk guy that is unblockable for 1. He actually might be better than the Hypnotic Siren. And Cloudfin Raptor is going to be, in this deck, probably not going to get bigger than a 2/3 very often, as nothing really evolves him over a 2/3. So on a bunch of 1-drops, we got 0-drops. On to 2-drops, we have, again, the Quickling. We have Military Intelligence to draw some cards. I just like 2 of them in here, as we don't really want to be going in the card draw route. We're going to be as aggressive as possible, make them board wipe, and hopefully finish them off with like Mutavaults and whatnot. That is the plan anyway. We have Disperse in here for control as well, so bring this over. But the other 2-drop I want to talk about is Incursion Specialist. I kind of like it better than the Illusory Angel. What I found is Illusory Angel is not very good unless you have an Ornithopter, as it comes out 4th turn, and a lot of times 4th turn. a 4/4 gets outclassed by like a Desecration Demon or whatnot, or like a Plukranos. I mean, it does get in there for the last bit of damage, so I do like Illusionary Angel as a 2 of. We have 2 more in the sideboard. They are very good against certain decks, so definitely can bring it in. But Incursion Specialist, you're going to be casting 2 spells per turn quite often, and this just becomes a 3/3 unblockable until end of turn when you are able to cast those spells. So definitely like the Incursion Specialist. It's been testing well. It's been testing a lot better than the Illusory Angel. We have a 2 of Hour of Need. Hour of Need is a lot of times going to be killing your Ornithopter or killing something in response to them, like Bile Blighting. You put in an Hour of Need. I have Strived this dude when they've Drowned in Sorrow for 5, and able to kill off 2 of the guys they would have killed, and then able to have 2 4/4 flyers. This is very good instant speed in a turn. It's a way to you use it on one of your own guys to evolve your Cloudfin Raptor. So I like it. Just as a 2 of, though, maybe we'll mess around with the amount of Hour of Needs. I do like Rapid Hybridization a little bit better, even though that these are green creatures, so it doesn't have synergy with the Hall of Triumph. We are only running 2 of Hall of Triumphs. A lot of lists are running 4 of. This is just one of those cards that's nice to have if you have it. It doesn't affect your Ornithopter. It doesn't affect your Mutavault, so a lot of times this is only affecting like 2 or 3 guys on the battlefield. I have barfed out my hand. You do barf out your hand quite frequently, but I kind of like to run this more of as a tempo-based deck. That's why I'm only 27 creatures. I know some decks I've seen lists with 18 lands. I've seen lists even with 16 lands that do not use Mutavaults and just a bunch of 1-drops, and then again they barf out their hand and try to throw a Hall of Triumph out, and then it just kind of swing in for the win. If you're going to go that strategy, I do think that Rabblemaster Red is a lot better than this. That was my last week's episode, as that does just try to barf out its hand and attack in for lethal as soon as possible. This, again, is going to be more of a tempo-based deck. It doesn't 100%ly get shut down like the Rabblemaster Red does to like Mizzium Mortars and Golgari Charm, because you do have ways to get rid of it. What I mean by getting rid of it is countering it with Dispel. We have Dispel and Triton Tactics. Like if I know they're going to bring in like Mizzium Mortars and Golgari Charms and whatnot, you bring in like Dispels. Even Mizzium Skins aren't bad. You can overload it, get them out of the Golgari Charm range. And Triton Tactics. And the cool thing is it has a lot of combat tricks with Rapid Hybridizations. Disperse could easily be Cyclonic Rip, but for budget reasons, I did decide to include Disperse instead of Cyclonic Rift. Now onto sideboard, I think Tidebinder Mage is very good. It taps down green and red creatures, so against the like Rabblemaster Red, you could definitely put in Tidebinder Mage to tap down their guys. It's a 2/2. It's pretty aggressive as well. The Devotion decks like it for the added 2 blue Devotion, but I think that like tapping down a Plukranos is pretty good. Tapping down a Corsair Crufix is good, even though we usually go over top of those. I guess that's one of the advantages to this deck over Rabblemaster Red, is that you can fly over top a lot of those decks. So, I mean, so far testing, it's been doing pretty well against mono blue or against mono black post sideboard, as you can, again, just bring in the Dispels, the Negates, and whatnot, and then you can bounce back a lot of stuff like they Pack Rat, bounce it back, and you just try to play the tempo. It's about pinging them down for about 4 per turn and putting them on that like 5-turn clock, like ping, 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 ping with the Faerie Impostors and Quicklings. So anyway, we'll play some games here. That's the gist of the deck. This is a pretty fun deck. Again, I apologize for the redundancy and the amount of aggressive lists. I'm going to be doing kind of a more combo for the next week. It is aggressive, but it does use more combinations, and I think we'll be able to fit in one more playing on a budget, maybe 1 or 2 before Khans of Tarkir comes out, and then we'll start brewing around the Khans of Tarkir cards. That will definitely make the format a lot different. I have no clue what the following format's going to be. Block was very control-oriented, but it did have some aggressive decks in block with mono black aggro, and I think that mono red is very, very viable, especially with Goblin Rabblemaster in the M15. So we'll wait and see what Khans brings us, but so far the main Boogeyman decks are going to be completely obsolete come rotation. Mono blue gets really, really hurt with losing Tidebinder Mage and Frostburn Weird and Nightvale Spectre. There goes their Devotion. They really have to rely on Khans of Tarkir to get new Devotion. Mono Black gets completely gutted by getting rid of Mutavault and Pack Rat and also the Desecration Demon. That was kind of their strategy, was to control the field and use one of those beaters. I mean, they could have, there is a few other cards they could be using. Like, it could be going into a green strategy, like a green-black, and use Nisa as the win condition. But again, we'll have to wait and see what rotation brings us. This deck is fairly safe. It loses, I mean, we have a lot of one-drops to begin with in the next. We lose Mutavault, which is huge, I guess. But you still have Hour of Need, you still have Illusory Angel, you still have Ornithopter, Hall of Triumph, Military Intelligence. And again, there is a replacement for these one-drops. There's already some, I mean, there's a lot of like 1/1 unblockable type stuff that I'm sure it could be a replacement. Anyway, this has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.